a forgotten corner of a Midwestern barn, sunlight pierces through broken wood slats and falls on a dust-covered beast. You brush off years of neglect, and there it is, the SS emblem, modest yet magnetic. You turn the key, and the LS5454 V8 erupts, not with a scream, but a baritone growl that shakes your bones. This isn't a Chevelle or a Camaro, it's something far more elusive. While Chevrolet's brash siblings stole headlines, the Monte Carlo SS454 stood quietly, draped in chrome and velvet, never begging for attention, just waiting to be discovered. What if the most grown-up muscle car of its time was also one of its rarest? That's the question we're chasing today. This is the story of the Monte Carlo SS454, a car that wore a suit but packed a street-fighting heart. It wasn't built to dominate the drag strip. It was made for the open road, for the rebel who liked his thunder with leather trim. Let's rewind the reel and uncover why this personal luxury coupe still turns heads, and why collectors are scrambling to find this underrated classic car before the world catches on. The Thunderbird effect and GM's retaliation. The year was 1958, and Ford did something nobody expected. They made the Thunderbird a two-door personal luxury car. It was no longer about raw speed. It was about presence, prestige, comfort, and Americans loved it. GM took notice. Buick responded with the Riviera, Pontiac with the Grand Prix. But Chevrolet, that took time. Enter Pete Estes and John DeLorean. Estes wanted to give Chevy something elegant, yet potent, an everyday muscle car in a tuxedo. And DeLorean, he was the mad genius who knew performance didn't have to come in loud packages. By 1970, the Monte Carlo was born on the GM A-body platform, a shared foundation with the Chevelle, but with different intentions. This wasn't just a Chevrolet coupe, it was a statement. Chevy's blue-collar image got a makeover. The Monte Carlo wasn't here to compete with Mustangs or Chargers. It was aiming higher. Think Grand Tours, not quarter-mile burnouts. But just in case anyone doubted its muscle, Chevy slipped in an option that changed everything. The LS5454. That engine would give this luxury muscle car the grunt to go head-to-head with the best of the era, wrapped in a package that your father-in-law would approve of. Power under restraint. The design and engineering story. The Monte Carlo SS454 wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. Its long 6-foot hood hinted at the monster beneath. Hidden wipers, modest chrome, and rally wheels gave it class, but the real story was under that hood. The LS545 4-cubic-inch big block was officially rated at 360 horsepower, but gearheads back then, and even now, whisper about real figures closer to 400. This wasn't fantasy, it was GM underselling on purpose, dodging insurance penalties and regulations. Paired with the turbo-hydromatic 400, one of the strongest automatic transmissions of its time, the Monte Carlo could glide or growl depending on your right foot. F41 suspension came standard, complete with boxed rear arms, front and rear sway bars, and optional vacuum leveling. This wasn't just a muscle car in a luxury suit. It was engineered for real-world performance, cornering better than its rivals, and cruising smoother than most. Rumors swirled about a factory 4-speed manual option, though none have been confirmed, adding to the mystery and collector lore. Still, the combo of raw torque, structural poise, and understated swagger made the Monte Carlo SS454 one of the most balanced Chevrolet V8s ever produced. Swagger in silence, performance that whispers. This car didn't need stripes, or shaker hoods, or flashy paint jobs. All it had was an SS454 badge on the grille and rear panel, and that was enough. It said, "I know what I am, and I don't need to shout." That's what made it dangerous. It wasn't just fast, it was confident. On the strip, it could clock 0 to 60 in around 7 seconds and run the quarter mile in the mid-14s at 92 miles per hour. Not bad for a car tipping the scales at nearly 4,000 pounds. Bias ply tires and drum brakes kept things honest, but even Motor Trend at the time praised its ability to combine brute force with surprising elegance. Only 3,823 Monte Carlo SS454s were made in 1970. That number dropped to around 1,900 in 1971, making it rarer than many think. Today, you're more likely to see a Chevelle or GTO at an auction than one of these big block sleepers. And that rarity, it's pushing values up fast, especially for original LS5 cars with factory paperwork. This is a muscle car under the radar, a GM luxury coupe that aged like bourbon, quiet, rich, and potent. The gentleman's muscle car fades out. But like all great stories from the golden age of Detroit, this one hit a wall, literally and figuratively. In 1971, emissions laws began to bite. The high compression 10.25 to 1 LS5 was choked down to 8.5 to 1. The power was still listed at 365 horsepower, but the thrill, it was slipping. Add in rising insurance costs, the oil crisis looming, and America's sudden distaste for high-octane fun, and the Monte Carlo SS 454 quietly disappeared. It was misunderstood, maybe too refined for muscle car fans, too muscle-bound for luxury buyers. It was the right car at the wrong time. The Chevelle SS got all the glory, the Camaro hugged the spotlight, and the Monte Carlo, it left the party without making a scene. But collectors today are rewriting the story. They're restoring these cars, hunting down rare builds, and realizing that sometimes the quietest kid in the room has the most interesting story. The muscle car with a silver spoon. So here we are, decades later, staring at one of the most fascinating GM legends, one that wore a tie, but kept brass knuckles in the glove box. The Monte Carlo SS 454 wasn't a mistake. It was a vision ahead of its time, a preview of what muscle cars could have become if the world had let them mature. For collectors, this is more than a big block. It's a forgotten fusion of luxury and power. It's a tribute to an era when Chevrolet wasn't afraid to experiment. And with fewer than 6,000 ever built, it's a rare badge of rebellion. So let's hear it. Would you pick the Monte SS over the Chevelle? Do you prefer the sleeper vibe, the hidden muscle car wrapped in chrome and silence? Let us know, and stay tuned. There are more rare muscle cars, big block sleepers, and GM legends waiting to be rediscovered. The hunt continues.